Somewhere at the edge of the world, where the cold air burns your lungs and silence feels heavier than sound, there exist lands that seem to defy human presence itself. Landscapes carved by ice, wind, and time. Places so cold, so remote, and so unforgiving that nature still holds absolute control. This is where Earth reveals its most primal form. Glaciers stretch to the horizon beneath pale skies, while abandoned settlements and ancient ruins whisper stories of those who once dared to live where survival was never guaranteed. The South Pole is the southernmost point on Earth, located at the center of the Antarctic ice continent, where the ground is buried beneath an ice sheet more than 9,000 feet thick. The sun rises only once and sets only once each year, creating 6 months of continuous daylight followed by 6 months of complete darkness. Winter temperatures can drop to -100 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze lung tissue if a breath is taken too deeply. Scientists work here in conditions similar to those found on Mars, using the environment to study strategies for extraterrestrial survival and biological adaptation. On clear nights, the southern lights can be seen stretching across the sky like living plasma, moving in response to Earth's magnetic field. This location serves as a global scientific stronghold, supporting research on the ozone hole, climate change, and ice dynamics within the Earth system. Oymyakon is one of the coldest permanently inhabited places on Earth, located deep within the Eurasian interior, where cold air masses are trapped by enclosed terrain and receive almost no moderating influence from the ocean. The ground here rests on a layer of permafrost hundreds of feet thick, forcing all buildings to adapt to soil that never fully thaws. Record low temperatures have been measured at nearly -90 degrees Fahrenheit, far beyond the natural tolerance of the human body without proper protection. To survive in these conditions, residents wear multiple layers of heavy clothing, with the total weight reaching several dozen pounds just to step outside for a short time. In extreme cold, changes in air density allow sound to travel farther than usual, making even small noises carry clearly across the landscape. This harsh environment has turned Oymyakon into a natural laboratory, where human endurance and scientific observation converge under conditions of extreme cold. The Antarctic Plateau is a vast ice-covered highland located deep within the interior of Antarctica, where the Earth's surface is sealed beneath a thick and continuous sheet of ice. This plateau rises to an average elevation of more than 8,000 feet above sea level, making the air thinner and colder than in most other regions on the planet. It is this extreme environment that has allowed scientists to gain deeper insight into Earth's climatic history and its long-term transformations. The Greenland ice sheet is the second largest continental ice mass on Earth, covering most of Greenland with a continuous and unified layer of ice. This ice sheet spans an area of more than 660,000 square miles, large enough to be considered a distinct ice continent in its own right. There are no permanent human communities living directly on the ice sheet, with human presence limited to temporary scientific research activities. Travel across the ice surface is consistently dangerous due to deep crevasses that can be hidden beneath thin, barely visible layers of snow. The layered ice of the Greenland ice sheet provides critical data that allows scientists to understand glacial and interglacial cycles throughout Earth's history. The melting of this ice mass has the potential to directly influence global sea levels, affecting natural systems and human societies across the planet. Vostok Station is a scientific research outpost located deep within the interior of Antarctica, surrounded by one of the most vast and isolated ice fields on Earth. The station is built entirely atop an ice sheet approximately 2.5 miles thick, with no direct contact with the exposed bedrock beneath. Vostok Station is the site where the lowest air temperature ever measured on Earth was recorded, reaching nearly minus 130 degrees Fahrenheit. No large animals inhabit this region, as the environment provides no natural food sources to sustain complex life. These extreme conditions have made Vostok Station one of the most important locations in the world for the study of Earth's ancient climate. Norilsk is one of the northernmost cities in the world, built deep within the continental Arctic of Russia, where an extreme climate governs every aspect of human life. The city is completely isolated from the national road network and cannot be reached by ordinary car travel from other regions. The polar night phenomenon plunges Norilsk into continuous darkness for approximately 6 to 8 weeks each year, severely disrupting the biological rhythms of its residents. Norilsk is one of the very few Arctic cities with a large population, home to hundreds of thousands of people who live there long-term under harsh conditions. Industrial emissions combined with cold air form a dense haze that blankets the city for extended periods and degrades environmental living conditions. To reduce direct exposure to freezing winds, residents often move between buildings through enclosed passageways specifically designed for the Arctic environment. Yakutsk is the capital of Siberia, located just below the Arctic Circle, surrounded by frozen tundra where winter temperatures can reach negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit. It is considered the coldest major city on Earth, with a population of more than 300,000 people living there year-round despite extreme climatic conditions. Winter lasts between 6 and 7 months, and the ground is locked in permafrost to depths exceeding 1,000 feet, a geological condition that defines the entire region. At times, the temperature difference between indoor and outdoor environments can exceed 150 degrees Fahrenheit, creating the sensation of two parallel worlds existing side by side. The native Yakult horse possesses a uniquely adapted immune system and thick fat layer, allowing it to survive temperatures as low as -70 degrees Fahrenheit without fully enclosed shelter. The city sits atop vast mineral reserves, including diamonds and valuable ores, which explains why humans continue to live here despite conditions considered deadly in most other parts of the world. Denali is the highest mountain in all of North America, rising to an elevation of 20,310 feet within the Alaska Range and surrounded by an ancient landscape of ice and snow. The mountain lifts itself dramatically from the ground, with its base standing nearly 18,000 feet above surrounding terrain, creating the impression of a colossal vertical wall emerging from the wilderness. Temperatures near the summit can plunge to between -40 degrees Fahrenheit and -75 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze metal and incapacitate the human body within minutes of exposure. Oxygen levels at the top are roughly half of those at sea level, making each breath feel like a sprint through thin and biting air. Wind speeds recorded along the slopes have exceeded 150 miles per hour, powerful enough to rip away tents and lift a fully grown adult off the ground. Indigenous peoples refer to this place as the High One, regarding it as sacred land rather than merely a mountain, carrying spiritual meaning beyond geography. Mount Logan is the highest mountain in Canada and the second highest in all of North America, reaching an elevation of approximately 19,550 feet. There are no permanent human settlements here, with only expedition teams and scientific researchers arriving seasonally depending on weather conditions. When the weather shifts rapidly, a distinctive cap cloud can be seen, forming over the summit like a dome of vapor, signaling sudden changes in atmospheric pressure. At times, fractures within the ice generate small seismic vibrations felt underfoot, as if the entire mountain were a living body in motion. At elevations above 18,000 feet, the human body can enter states of high-altitude cerebral edema or pulmonary edema, life-threatening conditions caused by extreme altitude. Studying the geological structure of Mount Logan helps scientists better understand tectonic plate collisions and the processes that shaped the North American continent. Yukon lies at subarctic latitudes, where winter solar radiation drops to a minimum, creating extreme light cycles that last for months. Yukon is one of Earth's largest natural carbon reservoirs, as permafrost soils lock away organic material for tens of thousands of years. During summer, Yukon experiences extreme long daylight, with light lasting 20 to 24 hours per day, disrupting the biological rhythms of both humans and wildlife. The Yukon ecosystem sustains a low but stable density of life, relying on slow reproductive cycles and harsh survival-driven natural selection. Aurora borealis appears frequently over Yukon due to its position beneath an active zone of Earth's magnetic field. Yukon plays a role in stabilizing the climate system of the Northern Hemisphere by reflecting solar energy and storing carbon within its permafrost. Eismitte, meaning middle of the ice in German, is a location deep within the heart of the Greenland ice sheet, hundreds of miles from the coast in every direction. This area rises more than 9,500 feet above sea level and sits on a barren ice plateau with no exposed rock or soil. For more than 8 months each year, direct sunlight never appears, while the remaining months offer only faint, scattered light resembling an extended polar night. Scientists once excavated ice pits 50 feet deep to live and work inside, using the snow itself as a natural cold storage and insulated research space. During the long darkness, green and violet auroras can sweep across the sky, moving with Earth's magnetic field like bands of living plasma. Climate data collected at IceMeter helps scientists understand the structure of the Greenland ice sheet, a critical factor for predicting future sea level rise and global climate change. Nunavut is the largest and most sparsely populated territory in Canada, covering nearly 1/5 of the country's land area, while home to only a few tens of thousands of people. This region lies deep within the Arctic, where sea ice, tundra, and frozen bays shape the entire landscape. Most of Nunavut has no interprovincial road connections, with transportation relying primarily on air travel and seasonal sea routes. Winter lasts for many months, with extreme cold and periods of polar night, while the short summer brings continuous daylight that lasts around the clock. Nunavut serves as the cultural heartland of the Inuit people, where traditional ways of life, adapted directly to icy environments, remain clearly visible in daily routines. Infrastructure, supply chains, and healthcare systems face major challenges due to vast distances, extreme climate, and high transportation costs, making daily life heavily dependent on subsidies and scheduled resupply. McMurdo Dry Valleys is one of the strangest and most extreme places on Earth, located in Antarctica and recognized as the largest and driest cold desert on the planet. What makes this region globally famous is the shocking reality that its surface is almost entirely free of ice and snow, despite lying in the heart of the frozen Antarctic continent. winter temperatures can fall below -50 degrees Celsius, while the rare summer rises only to around -20 degrees Celsius, just enough to create brief streams of meltwater that exist for a short time. One of the most unusual phenomena here is the presence of hypersaline lakes that remain unfrozen even under extreme sub-zero temperatures. It is this harsh and nearly lifeless environment that has turned the McMurdo Dry Valleys into the closest natural analog to Mars, used by space agencies to study the potential for life beyond Earth. Tixi is a small port settlement located deep within Russia's Arctic Circle, part of the Sakha Republic, positioned on the coast of the Laptov Sea, one of the coldest and harshest seas of the Arctic Ocean. Tixi is known for its extreme isolation and severe climate, with winters lasting around 8 to 9 months each year, temperatures frequently dropping below -40 degrees Celsius, and strong ocean winds intensifying the cold far beyond what the numbers suggest. The surrounding landscape is defined by open Arctic tundra, with no tall forests and almost no natural shelter from wind or storms. The ground here is locked in permafrost, covered only by moss, low grasses, and snow, forcing all construction and daily life to adapt to an unstable, frozen foundation. Despite the harsh living conditions, Tixi plays an important role in meteorological and Arctic research, hosting observation stations that provide critical data on sea ice and polar climate dynamics. As Arctic ice continues to retreat, Tixi is increasingly viewed as a location of growing scientific importance and strategic potential along the Northern Sea route. Svalbard is an Arctic archipelago located between mainland Norway and the Arctic Ocean, about 1,300 kilometers from the geographic North Pole, placing it among the northernmost inhabited regions on Earth. Svalbard is globally known for its raw and severe Arctic environment, with more than 60% of its landmass covered by glaciers, permafrost, and exposed rock mountains. The climate here is sharply extreme, with winters lasting for months in complete polar night, while summer enters a phase when the sun never sets and daylight continues for 24 hours each day. The landscape of Svalbard feels almost extraterrestrial, where dark, jagged mountain ranges rise from fields of white ice. Wide valleys open toward frozen seas, and glaciers descend directly into the ocean. Wildlife dominates Svalbard overwhelmingly, with polar bears outnumbering humans, forcing residents and visitors to carry firearms whenever they leave settlements for protection. Because permafrost prevents bodies from decomposing, Svalbard follows unique survival rules, such as prohibiting burials, and it is also home to the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, a global seed repository carved deep into frozen rock to safeguard humanity's biological diversity against global catastrophes. Ulaanbaatar is the capital of Mongolia and the coldest capital city in the world, situated at an elevation of approximately 4,400 feet on the Central Asian Plateau. The city is globally known for its unusually severe winters, with temperatures frequently falling below -30 degrees Celsius and at times reaching -40 degrees Celsius as cold air becomes trapped within a basin shaped by surrounding terrain, making the cold longer lasting and heavier than in many coastal Arctic cities. Ulaanbaatar's landscape reveals a stark contrast, where dense modern buildings dominate the urban core, yet just a few kilometers away, traditional Mongolian geodistricts spread across bare hillsides, often lacking centralized heating and complete infrastructure. What makes Ulaanbaatar especially unusual is its extreme winter air pollution caused by hundreds of thousands of households burning coal and solid fuels for heating, creating a thick smog layer trapped by terrain and stagnant cold air. During the coldest months, this phenomenon can turn Ulaanbaatar into one of the most severely air-polluted cities in the world, despite its relatively modest population size. Spatially, Ulaanbaatar stands isolated amid vast nature, with no other major cities within hundreds of kilometers, as open steppe begins at the city's edge and continues to support traditional nomadic life alongside modern urban existence. Yellowknife is the capital of Canada's Northwest Territories, located along the shore of Great Slave Lake, one of the largest and deepest freshwater lakes in North America. The city is known for its long and severe winters, with temperatures frequently dropping below -30 degrees Celsius, strong winds intensifying the cold, and during several winter weeks, the sun barely rising above the horizon. In winter, Great Slave Lake freezes into a vast white expanse that was once used as an ice road for heavy trucks, while sparse taiga forest, ancient exposed rock, and frozen lakes surround the city all the way to the horizon. What makes Yellowknife unusual is the direct coexistence of a small urban center with true wilderness, where only minutes from downtown, the landscape shifts immediately into frozen forest and land with almost no human trace. Yellowknife is also globally recognized as one of the best places in the world to observe the aurora borealis, thanks to its position beneath the auroral belt and its dry, cold winter skies with very low light pollution. Historically and economically, the city grew through gold mining, with many remnants still visible today, and now serves as a key administrative, logistical, and research hub for Arctic Canada. Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, is the northernmost city in the United States, located on the coast of the Arctic Ocean in Alaska, where the land ends and the frozen sea begins. Utqiagvik is known for its extreme light cycle, experiencing around 65 days each year when the sun never rises in winter, and nearly 80 days of continuous daylight during summer. The climate here is purely Arctic, with winter temperatures frequently falling below -30 degrees Celsius, combined with strong ocean winds that make the cold feel far harsher than the measured values. The landscape of Utqiagvik appears almost alien, with no forests at all, only flat tundra, white snow, and sea ice stretching unbroken to the horizon. What makes this place unusual is the close bond between people and the Arctic environment, as the Inupiat community continues traditional ways of life tied to sea ice, cold winds, and marine hunting, alongside the modern services of an American city. Utqiagvik also serves as an important scientific research center, where data on sea ice, climate, and the ocean are collected to monitor Arctic climate change, a region evolving faster than most others on Earth. Valle de la Luna is one of the harshest desert valleys in Chile, famous for a landscape that resembles the moon's surface with salt soil, wind-carved rock, and extreme color shifts under changing light. The environment shows almost no surface life, creating the feeling of a place disconnected from Earth, where geology fully dominates space and perception. Before the 20th century, maps marked this area as an unreachable blank zone with no official name and no signs of settlement. Visiting Valle de la Luna is not sightseeing, but a psychological encounter with silence, isolation, and the overwhelming scale of geological time. Zhangjiajie is a vertical sandstone mountain region in northwestern Hunan, China, where the land is split into towering stone pillars that ignore normal landscape logic. Natural erosion and humid climate created more than 3,000 isolated stone columns, many rising to around 3,500 feet, standing alone without solid bases. There is almost no continuous ground here, turning the entire area into a three-dimensional space where height replaces horizontal movement. UNESCO recognizes Zhangjiajie not for wildlife or culture, but because its spatial form breaks natural geometric logic and challenges how humans understand mountains. Mount Fanjing is a sacred mountain with illogical terrain where massive rock pillars rise separately and the summit appears split by a clean vertical fracture. The mountain rises over 8,300 feet, sitting between subtropical and high mountain climates that create layered clouds almost year-round. Transporting building materials to this height took more than 30 years, as every component was carried by hand across sheer cliffs. Mount Fanjing therefore stands as proof of how human belief and endurance can shape lasting spiritual value within extreme mountain terrain. Itokor Tormiut lies on the edge of the frozen Arctic, where humanity survives among ice, wind, and near absolute silence. Brightly painted wooden houses stand as symbols of cultural endurance in a world shaped by isolation. The town of about 400 residents endures frozen seas, surviving through hunting, fishing, and a deep sense of community. For 9 months each year, the sun disappears, leaving a vast darkness where every living being adapts purely by instinct. Reaching Ito Kortormiut means crossing the border of patience itself, where one faces solitude in its purest, endless form. Franz Josef Land lies deep in the Arctic Ocean, about 560 miles from mainland Russia, known as Europe's farthest frontier. Over 85% of the archipelago is covered by glaciers where massive ice floes drift slowly through absolute silence. The islands were formed by ancient geological uplift, creating a frozen landscape almost untouched by humanity. Scientists have discovered ancient fossils and ice layers preserving climate records from hundreds of thousands of years. Throughout history, many expeditions perished in the frozen seas, leaving behind traces of their pursuit of the North Pole. Franz Josef Land is home to polar bears, walruses, and beluga whales, symbols of endurance within Earth's frozen kingdom. Bouvet Island stretches across the South Atlantic as Norway's most remote territory, where human arrival remains nearly impossible. Researchers once discovered traces of a volcanic crater completely sealed by ice, proving the island was born from ancient tectonic forces beneath the sea. There are no inhabitants, no vegetation, only moss, seabirds, and seals sustaining a fragile circle of life over cold stone and black gravel. Since 1971, Norway has protected Bouvet Island as a closed nature reserve, forbidding exploitation and limiting all access. Bouvet Island stands as the planet's last pure fragment where nature still holds absolute power beyond the reach of mankind. Verkhoyansk lies isolated in Siberia, Russia, where people live at the far edge of endurance between ice and endless distance. Near the Arctic Circle, the town is one of the few extreme places where humanity can sustain life for generations. Scientists have discovered that the surrounding permafrost holds prehistoric organisms preserved intact for tens of thousands of years. Life here depends not on comfort, but on memory, instinct, and a deep bond with land that tests survival every day. Verkhoyansk stands as the final border of endurance where humanity does not conquer nature, but learns to exist within its severity. Jan Mayen was forged by volcanic eruptions beneath the North Atlantic, where molten lava cooled against ancient ice to form Norway's only volcanic island. Glacial melt flows over black volcanic ash, carving channels where earth and water seem to argue over the planet's shape. Mount Beerenberg, standing over 2,200 meters, still smolders, its steam blending with Arctic mist to create a perpetual haze across the sky. The island is almost soundless, save for waves and gales striking its coast like a symphony without an audience. There are no trees here, only moss and lichen clinging to frozen rock, small survivors defying salt and wind. Standing here, you realize even silence has a voice, and Earth is still breathing, slow, relentless, alive. Churchill sits in northern Manitoba, where solid ground meets the ice of Hudson Bay, known as a center of survival under the planet's harshest climate. This is the only place in North America where polar bears, beluga whales, and the aurora coexist within a single natural ecosystem. Permafrost and frozen soil force every structure to be built on reinforced foundations to prevent collapse and structural fractures. Indigenous communities have lived here for more than 3 millennia, passing down skills in hunting, shelter building, and storm prediction through natural knowledge. Locals maintain the polar bear alert system to prevent human-animal conflict, a living model of balance between preservation and survival. Churchill remains one of the least visited yet most desired destinations on Earth, a meeting ground for courage, science, and endurance.